Hey there, I'm Jennifer,
And I'm Jackie.
and welcome to Slightly Unsupervised. We're best friends, business partners, and the chaos behind testimony, a ceremony we created to celebrate the kind of soulmates who don't come with a marriage license.
This podcast is all about that friendship energy, the deep stuff, the messy stuff, and the laugh till you snort stuff.
So whether you're driving, folding laundry, or hiding in your car for some peace and quiet,
You're in good company. Let's get slightly unsupervised. Today we are talking about why generations clash and what it does to friendships. Ever feel like you and your friend are speaking completely different emotional languages? You're not imagining it. It might be generational. In this episode, Jennifer and I break down why friendships across generations can feel confusing, frustrating, and sometimes even hurtful, even when both people genuinely care about each other. From communication styles and emotional expression to boundaries and expectations, each generation was shaped differently, and those differences don't just appear when we become friends. Jennifer and I get real about why generational clashes happen and why they're not personal. The biggest friction points between Gen X, Millennials, and Gen Z, how different generations define loyalty, communication, and boundaries, and when generational differences strengthen friendships and when they break them, and how to navigate friendships with people who see the world completely different. Because the problem isn't always the friendship. Sometimes it's the framework you're both using.
yeah, have you ever thought, why is this bothering you so much? And why are they acting like this? Like it's no big deal. So, I am a sister of a sister who is in a different generation. I have a sister 11 years younger than me. And it's one of those things that I find it often when I'm chatting with her or something about how they use the world differently than I do. It's, the things that she gets kind of bent out of shape with, not something we generally get bent out of shape with, and probably vice versa. So the things that I get bent out of shape with, she's like, what are we talking about? Like, there is a generational gap, and it's time to, definitely at least acknowledge it and try to understand it. It happens that we're not always disagreeing. We're just different people. And sometimes when we need to go back to how we were raised. I was raised differently than my sister and in a different household with a different mother. We're half sisters. So we have different stuff. And I'm constantly having to kind of adjust the way I converse with her about things because I now know that certain things she doesn't care about talking about because it doesn't matter to her. And it matters to me, but it doesn't matter to her. I've got to go to my friends for that. And then there's some things that my sister likes to talk about that I could care less about. It matters to her. I try to be a good sister and listen, but she really should turn to other people for what she needs from them to get because although I try, it may not be what she needs. She's used to a different kind of perspective. And there is a generational gap. I mean, I don't know how else to explain this. There it just is. And it's more apparent as we get older that generations are different than us. So, each generation was shaped by different stuff, how they were parented. My sister was parented kind of the same, but maybe a little differently than I was. So, I was I was a child of a divorce parents out of the house. My sister was raised in a house. Her mom worked. There's no doubt about it. My dad was around too, and he was around more so for her than probably was when I was a child because he was there more. So she has a different perspective. Even my dad, I'm going to tell you right now, the perspective on my dad is different from my sister to myself, and that's siblings is that way, I'm sure. But who he was as a person is different because I didn't have the access to my dad the way she had access to my dad and how she looks at him versus her mother, how I look at my dad versus my mother. There's a generational difference there. And you would think that we would have more similarities on how we feel because he was the same man. I mean, I don't think my dad didn't love one child more than the other. I never got that from my dad, but the different perspective of it, of how they were raised. Do you have any examples, Jackie, of people that were, I know you have a couple of daughters that are in different generations about their perspective. Well, here's a good one. You do have two daughters that were raised differently, even though they were in the same sort of household, right? One has a different perspective probably than the other one because it would change by the time that one got a little bit older. The younger one got older versus the younger one that had more of the different perspective, like they probably
Right,
have,
but I wouldn't know what the perspectives are. You know what I
no,
mean? Like
yeah.
I wouldn't know how to say what their perspectives were. They would have to say that.
But I'm just saying,
Right.
like, it changes, right? they raised in the same household, but there's a little bit of a different perspective there. I'm
Well, it's
just
different because when the oldest was raised, the mom and dad were still together, and then so by the time they broke up, she was going to college, where the youngest was only going into junior high school.
right,
So she was going, and when you're hitting puberty and stuff, your parents are splitting up. So you have
right.
a dad who's by himself and moving on, and then moms who's moving on and getting married. So yeah,
But it's
her perspectives will be different, but like, they don't talk to me about that, so I wouldn't know what their
sure.
difference is, but of course, yeah, it's gonna be way different,
Yeah, but I mean, it's
obviously.
just like the perspective of like my sister and even though we
Yeah.
weren't in the same, it's the same thing. Like by the time my
Mhm,
sister came, her perspective is different because her life was
mhm.
different in that situation, and my perspective is different for that. So it's a generational thing too. What is the age difference between the girls?
5. 5
5 years.
years. Yeah.
It's
Well,
not
no, I think it's 5 or 6, something like that. I
okay.
can't think right now. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's
It is
okay.
early.
No, it's okay. They weren't in the same.
6, let's see.
They weren't in the
I
same.
I'll
They
have
weren't
it
in
by
like.
the end of this podcast, I will have it figured out.
Well, I can tell you because you said that one was like junior high and the other one was in college already. There's a big gap there. There's at least 4 years of high school they weren't in there together, and the others, so it's
Because
probably
she was,
five or
like,
six
12
years.
or 13 when we started dating, and she was going into college.
Yeah, so it's probably 5 or 6 years between them. Yeah, but they're are they in different generations, or is one of them a Gen Z and one of them or one a millennial, one a Gen X
I
or
don't know, I
Gen
have to
Z?
figure it out. Now I feel like I don't even know my own children, but it's I gotta think it out. Like I
You
told you
do.
people oh, no, that was on my last podcast. We do 2 podcasts a day, but, yeah, I'm working on two nights of
No
my
sleep.
grandchildren one night and another night,
But
lack
it's
of
a good
sleep.
example because the reason I brought them up, not to talk about them because we're not talking about
Mhm,
it, but that they are in the same perspective is that they have
mhm,
one that's different,
yeah.
raised differently in a different way than the other one because of the life had happened differently between them. And that is how it is for my sister and I too. So for her and I, when we have a same conversation about the same person, we would think we'd have the same perspective. We do not because there's different parenting that happened there. So it's all about timing. It's all about where you are in life and how you are as a generation and how you see the life of, the perspective of things. So
I
this
think it's
is,
6 years. I think it's 6. I think I'm
she's still
good.
thinking
I
about
think
it.
I'm thinking I'm good. It's 6. I'm pretty sure it's 6.
I've gone on and she's over there calculating, writing down numbers. So, anyways, well, we want to talk about the generational clash between the points because of the friendship bases that, I generally have friends that are close to my age and because I get along with them and because we're not trying to recreate how we are because it's all pretty much the same. And I'm sure that most generations do that too. But at some point, you are going to cross generations and have a friend that is in a different generation than you. And it can definitely cause some concern when you are looking at things from a different perspective. And you have to kind of do some studying on their generational stuff that they should. It's not necessarily like I said, my sister and I are raised by the same man. We look at him differently, is because life had happened differently. And I have to go into my sister's mind sometimes and try to think about how she was raised and why her perspective is different than mine rather than just accepting um, that we just see it differently. It's her generation's a little different than mine. So I'm constantly having to do that. Do you have any friends, Jackie, in a different generation than you? Do you have any ones that are like younger? You have a lot of
I
people
do.
around you. Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you
Yeah.
have any?
I just make a lot of sarcastic remarks, you know me. I'm really good with just being a little passive aggressive, so I'll make a
You are
little
very good at
remark.
passive aggressive.
And
Yeah.
I am, and I can get along because usually they're not usually close friends, you know what I mean?
Right.
They're usually acquaintances or just
Right.
friends, but not ones that I'm worried about if I say something or I have to, like, know exactly their feelings on something, you know what I mean? Like, we don't
Hmm.
talk enough about
So basically,
what they're
you show up as you,
Mhm. I
but
don't really worry
maybe
about it.
you don't really worry about it. You're like, "Well, didn't land, it didn't land, moving on,"
It's
like
pretty much, yeah.
yeah.
Because I
I
mean, like, some of them we've even, like, spent weekends at the river or something with, and I'll just be like, "Oh, well, we're older." If I say something wrong or, if they don't
right.
agree with it or I'll be like, "In my time,
Right!
in
Isn't
my
that funny?
days."
In my day, this is
I
how we did
do.
it. But do you
Uh-huh.
remember that your parents or your grandparents kinda did
Mhm.
that too? I think it's
Mhm.
funny. Did you think I have this because the generational gap, and I was just telling you about this at my last podcast that Tony Robbins, who does extensive studying on human subjects, told us that generations go back and forth, but I always find that I got along better with my grandmother, which is a different generation than my mother,
Mhm.
and could easily communicate with her, and she understood me more. That's how I
Mhm.
felt. Do you have
Mhm.
that maybe with your grandmother?
Oh, yeah, I did. I was really
Y
close to my grandmother.
Yeah,
Definitely, still am. I mean, as she's getting older, she's getting harder, but that's because she's getting kinda like the dementia, all that kinda stuff, and, the
right.
Alzheimer, the sundowners, she gets really angry. So things are a little bit different now, but when she was all there more,
Yeah. When you were
definitely,
a
I could
kid,
say
like, when you were
anything.
a kid, did
Mhm.
you feel, like,
Oh, yeah.
way more understood by your grandmother than your mother?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, that's how
definitely.
I felt too.
Mhm.
I don't
I
know
could
if that
tell
was.
her anything, and she
Yeah,
didn't have a problem with anything. She'd kinda tell me stuff. She'd tell stuff about my mother because my mom always tried to act like she was just Miss Perfect, and my grandma would make sure that, "No, that's not how it was. Your mother did this. Oh, she had me at the top, just up angry all the time. She would do this and that, and
right,
you're
like,
just
trying
a
to pass off
kid."
that she was the perfect daughter and she never
Mhm,
got in trouble, and she's like, "No, that's
mhm.
not what happened."
No, no.
Interesting, but they do
My
say that.
grandma would just tell me I'm just being a teenager, I'm just doing what everybody else did. "Thank you, grandma. Thank
"Mm,
you."
thank you for understanding me." That's how I felt with my grandmother too, so maybe skipping generations is the key. Maybe you don't find a generation right next to you, you go to the one beyond it. Maybe that's why
Exactly.
grandparents are getting along with their grandchildren so well because, 1, they've already raised their children, so they've already got a perspective on that, and they realize that's a big job and they don't wanna do it, so they get to enjoy more. So maybe that's the key in this too, but
Mhm.
in the friendship world, you're going to have to do some studying. I hate to tell you it, but you oughta, if you have Chat GPT, just put your perspective, be like, my perspective on this is this, and this my friend is on different millennial or different age group, and why are they acting that way? Sometimes I do that with my sister. I'm like, Chat GPT, what is going on with my sister? Like, I don't see this at all like this, and my sister sees it this way, and then it explains it to me. I'm like, oh, okay, I got you. It's like therapy, but free. Well, kinda. ChatGPT.
It's too much work for me. I'm just like, "Whatever."
Well, my son is very concerned that I get too much information off ChatGPT.
I worry about that too. You do like to go to GTP
And
for
I'm
everything.
like I'm like, it's the only where like, in our generation, we went to encyclopedias, right? That's where we got information from if we wanted to learn about.
You could not go to the encyclopedia to ask why your sister was thinking this.
This is true. But now that we have this is my point, is that we were very limited in what we could go back and look for. We had to I don't even know where we got our information from. Somebody knew somebody did something, but, like hairdressers. Hairdressers are really good for information because they sit and talk to people all day
Day
long. And then
long.
you go talk to them and they'll be like, well, so and so did such and such, and that's how they solved it. And you're like, oh, well, that's how I'm going to solve my problem then because the hairdresser told me that. That's kind of how our generation went. So now I have ChatGPT and I'm like, look, I think my sister might be strange. Nope. No, ma'am. She's not strange. She thinks differently. And I'm like, nope. I think something's wrong. Like something is definitely wrong here. Nope. Ma'am, it's you too. You have a different way of thinking at it, and so does she. So, your sister's not all, she's all there, but maybe she's, got a different perspective. So, even though we don't know if ChatGPT is always right, I do know that it has helped me deal with my sister more. And I invite you, if you're having issues, go to ChatGPT and ask their perspective because they will give you a new perspective and you'll be like, hadn't thought of it that way.
I'm going to continue looking for my regular therapist, and that's just what I'm gonna go with. But, if you all wanna follow Jen with the Chat GPT,
There you go.
go right
You can
ahead.
chat GPT or find a therapist. Chat GPT is 21.95 a month. It's not
You follow
that
what
bad.
you want, but as is, Jackie, if you wanna follow Jackie, therapists are just fine also.
Just for yes. And you know what? Therapists have their way because therapists
Yes.
have a way of looking at it from a different perspective because they studied it where we don't have that.
And I enjoy seeing a face and a person.
Can I invite you to maybe talk to your hairdresser? Because your hairdresser has quite a few things to talk about.
Mine's too busy telling me about how her husband's buying a new car and all this stuff.
So you're just
Ours just
listening?
talk about the extensions of this girl that was just there. Yes, they're all a little bougie at my place, so, I don't talk much to them.
You know why? They're millennials, and they're probably like, I don't wanna talk about that," or Gen Zs or something. So,
Yes,
anyways, these are just they're just giving you some perspective on it. I'm coming up with my sister because I have a close relationship with my sister most of the time. And we
most of
have
the
most of the time. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, most of the time we're close, sometimes we're not. And we come back around, but sure, her perspective is different than mine, and my perspective is different. And my kids are in her perspective too, but I don't have quite the generational gap with them because my kids were maybe raised with me and think more along the lines I think, or they're boys and they don't require as much maintenance. Is that a good word?
Sure.
Like check in, like emotional maintenance?
Or they grew up with you and they know to just agree with you. "Yes, mom," but then when they go away from you, they're like, "Can you believe
That's
she
not what we're
said
doing.
that?"
I'm on to you, boys. I mean, you can tell when you give side eye. I know how to give side eye too. Dear Lord, what's mom talking about? All I know is
Love it.
that my boys don't have a problem with my boys, but I get it. They, have their own perspectives too. So,
Yeah, and that's what we want. We want
yes,
them to live their
yes,
lives.
yes. They can't agree with my generation and grow up like me. So I get that. So, anyways, just leave some room in your life for these generational gaps and try to find somewhere to find some reflection, some honest reflection about it. I vote Chat GPT, Jackie votes a therapist. So either one would be good, or
Right?
just somebody that, can understand that might have perspective and maybe have a couple people that,
Or
just
you just go along and maybe be friends with them and be passive aggressive and make friendships. It's all good. Whatever whatever works to, have a friend.
right.
Works for
Find your
me.
place, whatever it is. Like whatever works for you, but just know we're not all the same. That's all we're gonna
Yep.
get to. All right, Jackie, let's
Yep.
go into bestie rapid fire questions. I'm gonna
Oh,
go
are we there?
first. Yeah. Do you think
Okay.
people today expect too much from friendships, Jackie?
Expect too much from friendships?
Yeah. So think about not your old friends, but think about new friends that you've made. Do you think that they ask too much? Like, is it too much?
I think it depends on your age.
Yeah. It's generations, right? Different generations are different.
Generations, so that
Yeah.
what we're talking about, yeah.
So maybe newer
Like,
friendships that
I think if
expect.
at my age, if you're expecting me to be your best friend and it's not gonna happen. I've got my best friends. If you just want a
Right.
friendship to, like, hang out and do stuff, like
Right.
us moving to a new neighborhood, it's not we enjoy hanging out with the people that we've met here. But,
But
I
don't
mean,
you
it's
find
not gonna
that
be
do you
Go
find
ahead.
that a relief sometimes? Like, I'm not looking for a best friend. I've got my best
Yeah.
friends. That's how I feel too.
Exactly.
Like,
That's why I
we can
said
just
it's
be
like it's
friends.
nice to just go hang out with the people. Like,
Yeah.
we have some friends down the street that they just bought a trailer, and we're gonna go, uh, take our new one to go just test it out. You have to test out a new trailer, make sure go close by. And, they actually got their first one ever, and so we said, "Oh, you should just bring it where we're going so you can test it out." And then my husband knows a lot about trailers, so this person's never used one before, so he's
Oh,
gonna kinda show him stuff on it so he can know how to use it and not mess it up. And, so we're like, "Yeah, just come where we're going." So they're actually going just so that my husband can show 'em things, but,
right.
we're not gonna be best friends, but we're gonna hang
Right.
out and, like, we're gonna be at the pool that's by the place that we're going, but you can pay money to go to the bigger pool where you can hang out with more people and do that. Well, we're like, "Yeah, you can go do that during the day. We're gonna hang out at the other pool." And then we have
Right.
our other friends coming, my best friends, like
Right.
Michelle's coming and her husband to hang out with us at the pool that's smaller
Right.
and, more quaint for us with our best friends. But
Right,
we're
right,
gonna
right.
still hang out with these people. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
So
You're not at the
that
big pool looking for new people to hang out with. You already have that kind of set.
Uh-huh, but we're fine hanging out with these people, but they're not gonna be our best friends, but we'll hang
No.
out with you. Yeah,
Right. Right.
exactly.
But
That's
when you
what I'm
have a best
saying.
friend, it does take a pressure off of any friendships that you start because you're like,
Mhm.
yeah, we can be totally cool. Like, you got a best friend? Cool. I got a best friend too. Like, we don't need to be each other's best friends. I think that helps sometimes in making friendships with people because it's very chill. Like, if we connect, we connect. If we don't, we don't. It's not like a forced, I don't need, if we're not going to connect. We don't have to connect. It's not, I'm not looking for a friend to fill my life up with. So, anyways, okay,
Yeah,
Jackie, how about, have you ever thought this is not serious, but your friend disagreed? 100% for me.
sure.
Like, you're like, it's chill.
Mhm.
Let me go back to my friend that I just called about something in my life that was, like, shaky, and she's like, "It's fine." Like, and
Mhm.
you're like, "Serious?" "No, it's not." "Okay."
Yep.
So, Yeah, different generations are gonna have emphasis. Same thing with my sister. Sometimes I'm like, "This is not that serious," and she's like, "This is completely serious," and you're like, "I don't understand, but okay, let's talk about it." So, I have that with her too. So, all right, Jackie, you go.
Do you believe loyalty should outweigh personal discomfort?
Believe that. Loyalty should outweigh personal discomfort. Yeah, be loyal. Like, let me give you a perspective, Jack. If you were somebody was talking shit about me, we'll go there, and you're at a wedding and it's not a real good place to really pipe up because it's a different environment. And the question is, should you still be loyal to me? Because it's going to be a little uncomfortable for you in that situation. That's kind of what I'm reading into it. I'd
Mhm,
expect you to still be loyal. You know what I
mhm.
mean?
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? It's
Mhm.
loyalty in an uncomfortable place, still being loyal. So do you believe that it should outweigh personal discomfort is the question. Yes, I do
Sure.
think. Do you think so? Yeah, you should still, whether the environment's good or not, you should still be a good friend, I think. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by someone else's emotional needs? Have I ever needed too much from you and you're just like, "Shut up, Jen."
Sure.
"Thanks, Jack." You're like, "Go away, girl. I don't need this right now. Move along. Find somebody else." Of
I'm
course,
like,
Jack.
"Can we just go into Nashville and have some fun?"
Jackie's coming to Nashville, y'all, in June. Are going to be
Yep.
together so we can podcast together. And I have promised to be more a host than I don't
No,
know.
we're gonna work too. It's
We'll
all
work,
good.
but we'll have more fun. So we're going to
Have you
go.
ever felt dismissed by someone who doesn't express emotions the same way?
Yes,
I think
100%.
everybody has.
My d I will say the most dismissed I feel by someone who doesn't express their emotions the same way is my mother, right? The generation before me, really, about how I needed something and I got emotionally dismissed. Like, we don't talk about that. It's fine. Go, like they don't have she didn't have a package to unpack to be like, well, here's the problem is that you have,
Mhm.
you're this or you're that. My mom had no concept of that. Like, just don't talk about it. Move on. Like, so yes, I think that I have definitely felt dismissed by somebody who didn't express emotions the same way. And I'm sure the generation millennials feel the same way by us because we are
Mhm.
not as bad as our mothers, but we are somewhere in between the two. So I'm sure that
Mhm.
happens too. Okay. Do you ever think it's easier or harder to maintain friendships across generations? Harder. It's harder. We just think
Mhm.
differently. I don't think it's easy.
Yeah.
I think every other generation might be easier, but for the generations sandwiching us between us, the one before us and the one after, it's definitely harder to maintain those because we don't think the same a lot of times. So, all right,
Yeah.
Jack, you're next.
Have you ever ended or distanced from a friendship because your values didn't align?
Oh yeah, 100% on values. If you don't have the same values, I don't know how you can be friends.
Yeah, exactly.
If you have a value of something that means nothing to me or I think is shallow or I think is incorrect or whatever, I'm not in a position where I can just like, well, that doesn't matter to me. Your values do matter to me to some degree. Like you have to be more in line with me if we're going to be friends. Otherwise, it doesn't work very well because I'm doing something I don't agree with or agreeing with
Mhm.
something I don't agree with or something, So that is. Okay, Jack, be honest. Are you open to understanding different friendship styles or do you think yours is right?
Oh, I'm open to understanding others.
Okay, good. I think I'm
Aren't
right.
you?
Ours is right. Like, yeah.
Oh,
No, I
ours
mean,
is right.
yeah, I
Ours
think
is right, but I think I'm understanding to different others.
yeah, I can
But
understand it
come
too.
on, I'm not gonna be like, "Mine is right and that's it." I mean, of course, maybe when we turn this off, I'll say that, but,
Ours is better. I mean, get on with it. Move on.
obviously it works.
We grew up that way. That's how we know. Not all friendship conflict is about friendship. Sometimes it's about the lens you're using. Different generations just don't think differently. They connect differently. And maybe the goal isn't to change each other, it's to understand each other enough to stay connected anyways. All right, if this episode hit you in the feels or made you laugh way too hard, we consider that a win.
Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your ride or die,
And when you're ready to make your friendship official, book your testimony at rhinestoneweddingchapel.com.
because the best love stories don't always come with a ring.
We stick together, ride or die to the moon, and no amount of space could ever come between us two. Reuniting's like we never been apart, and every single time we're eye to eye and heart to heart. There's not enough words to describe what you mean to me. Through heartaches and ups and downs in this life, you've stayed right next to me. I vow to make you laugh till you cry and talk about everything under the moon. The definition of